Hi everyone, I'm Emma, a certified dog trainer.
And I'm Kirsten, a certified dog behavior consultant.
And this is Dog Chats. Join us as we chat about dog behavior, having fun with your dogs, and building relationships. We will offer practical advice and a bit of humor. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 16. And if you listened to our last episode, you know we are interviewing each other about what we specialize in. So I am so happy to have Kirsten here today.
Thank you.
Where I can interview her and all the wonderful things she does. So just in continuation of our last episode and finding out what each other does and specializes in, I wanted to find out from you the area you specialize in, why that appealed to you and why your passion went in that direction. Even though we do other things when clients call us for leash walking and jumping or whatever, we go out there to do that too, but we specialize in particular things. So
I would say I specialize in aggressive behaviors, not aggressive dogs, aggressive behaviors. And partially because, in my view, those are some of the most misunderstood dogs. And those are some of the most emotionally distraught people, right? Your dog just bit the mail carrier. You're in a different place. And so it really feels like I can do some valuable work there. You know, no judgment on the other work that I do with other clients, but there's an urgency. And frankly, I'm kind of drawn to that adrenaline rush of, you know, here's this dog displaying aggressive behaviors, and there's something maybe wrong with me, but
not at all.
It feels
and people need that, and for somebody to have a passion to do that, because there's not a lot of us that specialize in that area.
Because so often it's not aggressive, right? It's, you know, I would say 9 times out of 10, the dog is communicating some kind of fear or conflict or uncertainty. Absolutely. And as soon as we see that it's one of the quickest behavior changes. It's amazing.
When you decided that was an area you were going to specialize in, where did you get the information, the learning from on how to work with those types of dogs?
Yeah, great question. I was lucky enough to mentor under Trish King, who I said to her, I want to go follow you around to your aggression cases, because not many people do that. You don't get to see that, and certainly not many positive trainers.
No.
Reinforcement trainers do that. So she would select out certain cases and bring me, and sometimes it kind of felt like it was a test, which I loved. But I learned so much from her and her own behavior and her responses, and she's kind of the quintessential, I'm not going to fix the dog and do a lot of training. Let's look at the big picture here and see how we can change the environment and support the people, right?
Yeah.
So I was so lucky to have that. And then she suggested that I go to a workshop with Michael Shikashio. Fortunately enough, he came up from the East Coast out here to California and did a hands-on defensive handling that was brilliant with Trish McMullen. And I got to talk to him, and then took his master's course and got to call him my mentor and be in his mentor program. So he was really just such a supportive person in my life with some of my initial tricky cases, and would let me reach out and get help. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have Trish and Michael both, you know, offering that skill.
And that's what the wonderful thing is having other trainers with experience in that area too, to be able to reach out to and discuss it.
Oh yeah.
Which is really wonderful.
Yeah.
So what happens when a client contacts you and says, I'm seeing these things going on with my dog? How do you start that conversation? How do you start your sessions with them?
So most of my clients come from either a referral from a vet or another trainer, and it's generally in an email format that says, I have an aggressive dog. So I start the conversation with a phone call where I ask them to describe the behaviors they see. And that doesn't mean using adjectives like aggressive. It means, you know, what does it look like when your dog sees another dog? What does it look like when a person comes into your home? What is your dog doing? What are you doing? Those kind of questions.
Yes.
So in the first couple minutes, I get a really good picture kind of what the needs are of the dog and the person. And then I'll just, you know, ask what they have done, what's working, what's not working, and see if I can get a clearer picture with even more details about the prognosis.
And then do you go to their home or do you meet them outside? How do you set that up?
Yeah, every dog is different, right?
Hmm.
Ideally, I want the dog to be as successful as possible. So, I love it. A lot of people are like, I want you to just ring the bell and I'll let the dog out so you can see the dog being his true self. And I always say, I don't have to see that. I live that every day with my
Yes.
dogs. But so we'll make a plan on the phone beforehand. And
Hmm.
then one thing Michael Shikashio taught us was also when you arrive that day, I always call from the car and remind them the plan in case someone else opens the door.
Uh-huh.
So generally, I ask for 2 lines of defense. So either the dog is on a leash with a muzzle, or the dog's behind a baby gate with a muzzle. There's 2 safety barriers between me and the dog.
And would this be a dog that you're seeing issues with dogs or with people, or it doesn't matter? That's your kind of
Great
you
question.
start out.
That is with people, and that is
Hmm.
particularly with people coming to the home. For a lot of dogs, that's the hardest thing, is that stranger walking into the home. And for some dogs, that can't even happen. So then either the dog is away in another room when I first come in, or we meet on the sidewalk out front. One dog we met 3 blocks away and walked side by side until we got near the home. If it's a dog-dog aggressive issue, then we generally meet somewhere where we can work at a distance from other on-leash dogs, or near a dog park where we can learn about that dog before we would bring out the stuffed dog, Balto,
Yes.
and some
Tell
of the
us
other tools.
tell us a little bit about that. If people
Yeah.
don't know, they probably, if they've worked with us, they've probably seen the stuffed dog in some form or another that we use them
Yeah.
in. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, and the stuffed dog can be used for several things. It can be used for
and it's a
puppy
life-size
socialization,
dog.
life size.
Yes, yes.
And I use a husky because huskies and German shepherds tend to be big trigger dogs because
Hmm.
their ears are up, the tail is up, the chest is out. They already look like they're like, game on.
Yes.
And so the person will bring their dog out front on leash,
Hmm.
and I will have Balto behind my car and then just pretend like I'm walking down. And the first thing we do is talk about their own dog's body language,
Yes.
because so much of this comes from fear, right? Or
Hmm.
conflict. And so I'll kind of walk the people through. We'll talk about the dog's tail, the hair on the back, and the eyes, and, um, you know, kind of try to not put the dog over threshold. I don't really want to see the dog
and
explode.
and explain threshold, because I think that's really
Mm,
important for people to understand too, what threshold
yeah,
means.
good. So the threshold is the distance that that dog can still take in information and be in the front logical part of their brain and make good decisions. So if they're over threshold, they've gotten too close to the stuffed dog. They can no longer hear anybody. They're not going to take food. You can barely reach them on the end of the leash because now they're just in that amygdala,
Hmm.
doing the flight or fight. And most dogs naturally are going to do more of the fight, which means get back, get back, get back.
Yes.
So that's what they're doing to the stuffed dog.
Yes.
In that case, I usually lay Balto down on the ground, butt facing the other dog.
Uh-huh.
And then, as if that doesn't work, then I'll put Balto back in the car for a minute. So there's a specific technique that we use while we're doing this. We're not
Hmm.
trying to stress that client dog out anymore by using the stuffed dog to provoke them.
Yes.
It's more trying to get a little bit of a visual of the behaviors that that dog is exhibiting, the client dog. So then we can figure out, is he acting out of frustration? Is it out of fear? Is it a combination?
Yes.
And also, it's so much easier with that stuffed dog to walk the client through some specific handling techniques.
Hmm.
If it's a human in the dog, the human client immediately is embarrassed
Yeah.
and can't help but get frustrated
Of
at their own dog.
course. Of course. Yeah.
They're looking at that stuffed dog, and most of the time, my client starts laughing, especially when I tip him
Yes.
over to the side and he's got the
Yes.
big cut in his belly and tape on his leg. So I feel like that just adds this little bit of levity
Hmm.
to the whole process,
Yeah, and
which
it
is
starts
so
it off.
important.
And of course, you are a professional trainer doing this. This isn't, just don't advise you to
Exactly.
go get your stuffed dog and give it
Oh,
a
right.
go and just see. This is
Absolutely.
all supervised and monitored
Yes.
for body language and safety and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. And it's not always 100% accurate. We do get false positives.
Yes.
There are some dogs that will come up and attack Balto because
Hmm.
he's frozen and stiff, and they're like, "You're not moving.
Yes.
Something's wrong with you." And then you do get dogs who aren't bothered by it. I've actually only had 2 dogs in all these years, both yellow labs, who are highly reactive with real dogs, have no issue with the stuffed dog.
They're like, that's a stuffed dog.
They're like, whatever, that's a
Yeah,
stuffed
yeah,
dog. And they
yeah.
go over and they
Try
pick
again.
it up by the ear and drag it
Yes.
down the sidewalk.
Yes, yes, yes. So what would you, when you start off your sessions, what is that one thing that's that hack, that easy fix that you start with everybody?
Yeah. Um, so the hack that I start with everybody, if I'm going into the home and there's stranger danger, it's
Hmm.
just called the off-duty hack. That's one of Kim Brophy's family dog mediation hacks. And it's something a lot of people do subconsciously anyway, is just have the dog away in another room. But we tend to put them in the other room only when somebody comes and it feels like a punishment. And then the dog gets FOMO and is freaking out and scream barking and the person's getting more tense. So I talk to them on the phone before I get there about practicing 5, 10, 20 minutes a day with setting the dog up behind a baby gate with, super special bone, a new toy, a couple different chewies, and really making it feel like that's a great place to be, and then picking those things up and then letting the dog out again. So they only get those special things behind the baby gate. A lot of dogs do better behind a gate than on a tie down in the house
Hmm.
because some get that leash frustration.
Of
If you
course,
don't
yeah,
have,
they come in.
if you don't have a place, and some people are like, I live in a studio, then we
Hmm.
use a tie down. Then they would be on a leash on a bed with all these special treats for their off duty
Yeah,
hack.
and not being able to reach anybody
Right.
that came in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's 6
yeah,
foot. And ideally behind, some kind of pen also. We're always looking for those 2 lines in a
that's
fence.
great.
Yeah.
And so that's a great management and
Mm-hmm.
and that easy fix. So
Yeah.
say that's in the house. So what if you've got a dog outside? What
Out.
are those easy? What's that an easy fix you can give?
So my starting point for almost all dog and human reactivity is the look at that game, Leslie McDevitt's pattern game. And it's brilliant. And it was Michael Shigashio who kind of walked me through this. It really changed my way of thinking because up until that point, before 2017, I'd done a lot of distraction. It's like
Hmm.
you and I are walking on the street, there's a creepy clown coming up, and I'd be
Yes.
like, Emma, look at me. And look at the
Yeah.
clown,
Yeah.
look at
Or
me, find it.
stand in
Yeah.
front of the
Stand in
dog
front,
so
yeah,
you can't
block it,
see.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
And Michael Scaccio talked a lot about how important it was at that distance to actually look at the clown, learn about the clown, hand the dog a treat while they're looking at the clown.
And I want you just to say, you said something very important there, at this distance.
Hmm.
So kind of
Right,
going
at
back
that
to that
threshold again.
threshold.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it could be a football
it
field
could be a
away.
football field.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a client I was actually on my phone with because we were 3 blocks away. They were at the bottom of the hill, and I had the stuffed dog because it had to be that far.
Hmm.
Every dog is different, but at a place where that dog can still take in information and learn. That's what's so important. So that rewarding the look or rewarding the listen, it might be just that ear twitching, and feeding the dog while it's looking at the other dog or the person. And that was mind blowing to me
I know.
because, yeah, it had always
Yeah.
been look away, look at
Yes.
me,
And I think clients even find that hard to understand
Yes.
that they're like, aren't we rewarding them staring
Right,
at the dog?
right, or rewarding the bark, and I'm like,
Yes.
the bark is almost like the sympathetic nervous system response. They're not intentionally doing that bark. They're having this emotional reaction. So we're not really rewarding that bark in that moment. They can't even make that cognitive leap. We are pairing a positive thing with what they see as the trigger. So, and if you and I were hiking and there was a rattlesnake on the side of the path, and I was like, Emma, there's a snake, but look at me, look at me, look at me.
You're like,
You'd be like, where's the
where?
snake? I need to learn about the snake. Instead, if we, move a little bit further away from the snake, watch the snake, I hand you chocolate, maybe a glass of wine while we're watching
I
the
wouldn't
snake.
be looking
Or
at the snake
a
anymore.
cider, right. You wouldn't get, you'd be like, oh, the snake's there. So
Yes.
that's
I
the
might be
idea.
still thinking about it, but not much if there was chocolate involved.
It really empowers the human. And that's
Hmm.
why I love that so much
Yeah.
because they've spent so much time embarrassed trying to get the dog to look away, trying to distract the dog from the
Yes.
trigger, which actually just is more fuel on the fire. And all of a sudden we're saying, no, actually, just stop a second, let
Hmm.
the dog look and reward that.
And I think what's wonderful about that exercise too, with lots of repetitions,
Hmm.
is then you start seeing the dog looking at the dog
Yes.
and looking back, right?
Yeah.
Do you see
Right.
that?
Right. Or looking at
That's
the
your
person.
end goal. I think
Yeah.
some people, when they start these exercises, they go, well, where are we going with
Right.
this? But seeing
Yeah.
the dog change the
Change.
way.
You can literally see, I think, the neural processing happening. The
Hmm.
dog making a generalization of, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And then building a memory network.
A little earlier, you mentioned that sometimes the people can be embarrassed
Mm.
by their dogs. And listen, sometimes I'm embarrassed by
Yep.
my dogs. I'm sure they're
Yeah.
embarrassed by me sometimes. But what do you do to support the people? Obviously, teaching them the skills they need and these great, easy fixes, hacks. But what are the other things you do to support the people?
Great question. One of the first things that we do when we're talking about the dog body language is that I also am talking about their body language and their tension and how do the shoulders feel right now when they're holding the leash. We often will experiment with different ways to hold the leash. So there's not the wrapping of the handle, and I also do a lot of absolution where I'm absolving them. And I can't tell you how much judgment there is on dog owners right now. It's horrible. And some of it is in the client's head, and some of it is real. Some of it is comments people say. And the more humor I can add to the situation, the more I can empathize and sympathize, because now this is my first time taking an errand. I'm back to 5 dogs. 4 out of 5 of my dogs are reactive. I live it, and so I get it. And I think just saying that to people, and helping them empathize with their own dog, that this isn't something the dog is doing to be a jerk. This is because the dog's having big feelings. Because no behavior plan is perfect, right? There's going to, and for many of these dogs, there's going to be some barking and lunging for the rest of their lives. Because all dogs at some point bark and lunge over something, right? Those are normal dogs. People have put up their dog to a very high standard. Unfortunately, not everybody can be a Lassie or an Airbud, and though we hope for that, it's looking at that dog in front of you, helping them see what their dog is doing right in those moments, and helping the people feel confident about what they're doing. So one thing I'd like to just close with is how important it is to reach out to a positive reinforcement trainer when you're dealing with aggressive behaviors, because these behaviors come from a place in the brain that are reactions, emotional responses. If we use any kind of negative aversives, it can cause different or worsening of the same behavior. And that's not my opinion, that's science. So be really selective when you're choosing the professional that's going to support you through this kind of behavior modification.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. So it was fun sharing some of our how-tos with you guys, some of our specific procedures. And if you have any more questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us at dogchatspodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And if there's anything, like we've said in previous episodes, if there's anything you want us to discuss, just let us know. We're happy to chat about it. All right, until next time. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in today, and hope you'll join us for our next episode. You can reach Emma at ecdogtraining.com or on Instagram at ecdog_training, and Kirsten at kwhappydogs.com or on Facebook at kwhappydogs. Don't forget to hit subscribe. See you next time.